We're looking at our childhood house here, and if you have not figured out yet how to do a big giant block of grass or a big giant block of sky, I'd like to show you guys how to do that right now. So what you would do is just take your rectangle tool. It's underneath the ellipse. If you switch to ellipse, you can go here and go back to rectangle tool. And we're just going to go ahead and drag a giant box over the whole sky area. It puts a box over everything, so you guys learned this already. How do I send it to the back? Command Shift and hit the bracket under the minus. It sends the sky all the way to the back. Now also, something that I want to make you guys aware of is that you do not need to have a stroke. You see this guy right here? So you click on the stroke and you click on this, and this means none. So now you have a filled area, but there is no outline around the outside. Go to the black arrow tool at the top of your screen, the top of your toolbar. And what I want you to do is select all the parts of your house. So how do you select all the parts of your house? Just click on one of them, then hold Shift and click on the next part. So I clicked on the chimney. Holding Shift, I clicked on the box, the window, the door, and the doorknob. Once you have all these parts selected, watch what I'm going to do here. Look at my screen. You're going to hold Option on the keyboard and notice that your cursor turns to a double arrow, a black and white double arrow. If you hold Option and you drag your house over to the right, you now have a neighbor. Going to go around this transform box and hold Shift, and you're going to drag this in to make a smaller house that we're going to use as our garage. You have to hold Shift when you make it bigger or smaller, or else it will distort it. So we want to hold Shift, shrink it down, and make a smaller house. Now, how do I make this into a garage and not just a miniature version of the house? Well, my garage doesn't have a chimney, so I'll delete it by pressing delete. Then I'm going to click on the windows and delete those. And I'm going to click on the door and delete that. And then what I'm going to do is make a big garage door. So I'm going to go ahead and take my rectangle tool, and I'm just going to make a big garage. Okay, the next thing I want to show you guys how to do, this is a really important tool for what we're going to be doing in here in class. And that is called the Shape Builder tool. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and build a cloud together right now. Go over to your rectangular marquee or your rectangular shape tool and change it to the ellipse tool. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start just dragging out some circles that are overlapping. So here's what I just did. That's going to be a cloud. Okay. Now what you need to do is select all of those pieces. So how do you select all those pieces? You click on one, hold Shift and click on the next one and the next one and the next, just like we did with the house. Or you could do a region select where you just drag a box around all of them with your black arrow to select all of them. I'm going to go ahead and fill them. So how did I fill them? I just flipped this over to fill. So instead of a stroke, it's a fill. And I don't want them to be pink clouds. I'm going to have them be like mostly like white, like that. Okay, here's the tool that I wanted to show you though. None of that was new. But I want to use this as a cloud, but I want it to be one object. I don't want it to be 20 circles. I want it to be one object. So you do a region select, which means get all of these things selected. And now here is the new tool. The new tool we're going to learn about is this one right here called the Shape Builder tool. It's these two circles with a little arrow next to it. So click on the Shape Builder tool. I'm going to make this into one object by just going like this. Dragging over it. You see how it starts to color it in or it starts to shade it in? I'm just tracing a line through it. And when I let go, watch what happens. It's now one shape. So I'm going to go ahead and keep dragging with that Shape Builder tool over all of these sections. And it has now combined all of those shapes into one cloud. How do you shrink it? You click on it with your black arrow tool, and you can hold Shift, and you just drag in from the outer box. So we made a sun already, which was a circle. Now what we're going to do is make a moon. Drag out a perfect circle by holding Shift. Now what I'm going to do is drag out another circle that overlaps this one, but it's a little bit smaller. So what am I talking about? Here's what I mean. I'm going to drag another circle holding Shift over here that overlaps this one, by a little bit. So you can see the two overlapping shapes are going to make a moon shape. Okay? Now, we're going to use that shape builder tool again, but this time we're going to cut a shape instead of adding to it. So I'm going to get both of these shapes selected, the two circles I just made. See how they're both selected? And now I'm going to grab my shape builder tool, but here's the trick, guys. You're not just going to drag over it. You're going to hold Option and drag over the parts you don't want. Look what just happened. Let me redo that. Watch my screen. If I hold Option and I drag over these shapes, it cuts those out. Now I'm going to show you a different trick that's cool. Sometimes you want to use the same color on another object. So I want to make my moon exactly the same yellow as the sun. If you click on an object like the moon and you say, oh, I want this to look like the sun, I want it to be the same appearance as the sun, another new tool you can use is called the eyedropper tool. And if I use the eyedropper tool, when I'm clicked on the moon and I eyedrop the sun, watch what happens. It makes the moon yellow. If I want to make it look like this, I click on this. So you could actually use this eyedropper tool to copy colors and appearances to other objects. But before we use this tool, I need you all to set up your color and stroke a certain way. So what we need is we need no fill, but we need a colored stroke. So something like this. Yellow is a little hard to see, so I'm going to go ahead and change it to a dark green. Okay, so pick a color that you want. We're going to be making lines with a pen tool. So pick a color you want for your stroke and make sure that the fill is none. You don't want the fill to be a color, you want it to be none. How do you make it none? You click on it and you click on the none box. A zigzag line. So we're going to go like this. Ready? Connect the dots. You're going to drop a point by clicking with your pen tool. You don't drag the pen tool, you just click and then you move it over here where you want it to go, like up here, and then we're going to click again. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to make sure that this looks pretty even. See how I get that pink line there? It shows me that I'm lined up with the other anchor point. You're going to click again and drop a point. You're going to come up here, drop a point, come down here, and drop a point. And then you're going to come up here, and you're going to drop a point. And now eventually you're going to want it to end, and it's not going to want to end. So the key that you have to hit on your keyboard is V, the letter V. We've got this. All right, we're going to do one more thing because why not? So here's what you guys have just learned. The pen tool can be used to play connect the dots. So watch as I make a shape up here on my screen. Don't do this, just watch. If I take my pen tool and I click, 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 and I close it, I can make these complex looking shapes with straight lines. It looks like a duck or a swan, right? So I'm going to go ahead and delete. Okay. The next type of line that you're going to make is going to be an S-curve line. This is way harder to do. Okay, so first you did the zigzag line, which is all straight. Now we're going to do an S-curve that looks like a roller coaster. Ready? Watch it first. Don't try to do it. Watch it and then give it a shot. Okay? So here's how it's different. You're still on the pen tool. You're still going to drop a point. But this time, you're not going to go up here. You're going to come straight across over this way. And I'm not going to click, because if I click, I'm just going to get a straight line. I'm going to click and drag. Look what happens when I drag. Don't try to do this yet. Don't try to do it. Just watch. Because there's another move we got to make here. So we come over here, we click and drag down and to the right. It makes a bump. Okay, you see the bump. And now I let go, and there it is. Okay, now look what happens. It wants to keep going this way, and I'm going to even it out right here. So it's like the roller coaster goes down the hill. Now it's going back up the hill, so I'm going to click again. Now I'm going to do this again. I'm going to come over here and show you guys again what I just did. You're going to come straight across. You're not going to click. You're going to click and drag to get the bump where you want it. It's not going to stick until you let go. So you can move this around and go, okay, right there, let go. Now you come over here and it's going to swoop back up for you. So I'm going to click again. So I have a roller coaster line and I hit V to end it. So you go up the roller coaster and down and up. And I want to make something called closed shapes. Okay, we already know that there's two shape tools over here. There's this square rectangle and there's the ellipse or circle. But now we've learned about this tool called the pen tool, where we can actually draw custom shapes. I'm going to take the pen tool, and we know that when we click, we drop an anchor point, and then we can move. And when we click again, it drops another anchor point and connects the dots. And then I'm going to click and click and click and click. Now, right now, this shape that you're looking at is open. Look at the shape. You see how it's open? Everything would spill out. How do I close it? You close it by clicking on your first point again. And when you do this, a little circle appears next to the pen, which indicates you're about to close the shape. So when I click on that, that shape is now closed. It's now contained. So I'm clicking on one of these lines. I'm going up to the top of the screen where it says Window, and I'm going down to the menu that says Brushes. Brushes. Now brushes, watch what I could do with these. You might have already clicked on one and you're going to be like, oh, okay. If I go into brushes, if I click on one of these different shapes, look what happens to my line. It starts to look like a ribbon that gets thick and thin. You see that? If I just leave it like that, it's just round. This one's just the standard one. This is brushes. You could change the profile of the brush to give it a thick and thin transition, which is interesting. But that's not all. Look down here. You start with a basic one. Basic is just basic. But if I click on this one, oh, now I've got some texture. What if I click on this one? Oh, my line is now made up of these arrows. What if I click on this one? It looks like a paintbrush painted it. That's fun. This one looks like a road, which I guess if you're drawing a map or something, that might be kind of fun. That's not that cool. That's it? There's only 4 brushes? No. There's way more brushes. Here they are. Watch how you get to them. So you guys are going to break into the next level here. This is like unlocking different levels in a game. You're going to click on these 3 lines up here, and under these 3 lines, there's all kinds of treats. Open brush library. You've got arrows and artistic and borders and bristle brushes and decorative and so on. I'm going to go to this one called Vector Packs because that just sounds cool. Hand-drawn brushes vector pack. Click on it. Now look what I get to play around with. Oh. 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 Ah, that's amazing. You didn't have to do that drawing. You just had to make a line and then drop the scribbles on it.
Thanks for watching. Like, there's like a little button that they put on the laptop or something, and then they say click it, and then you can never even miss a video.
That's if you subscribe.